Nothing, happens overnight. It's constant work, and you just have to show up, even when you don't feel like showing up. My name is Alymamah Rashed. I'm a painter and a storyteller. I thought about pursuing a career since I was a kid. I would paint with my dad, I'd draw with my mom, we would get so many coloring books and we'd fill them up, we would do our own stories and illustrate them. And then I saw my brother go abroad and study, and I saw a possibility for myself. During that time, no one in my family studied abroad, so I saw that as like an opening possibility for me to pursue a career in the arts, and it started from there. I started applying to schools, and I didn't have a specific place in mind, and I ended up in New York to start my career as an artist and to see what that looks like from a professional perspective, from mentors, even colleagues, and being in the art scene in New York, going to galleries and museums. But I had to learn how to toughen up and how to build a system on my own, and how to as well understand the story of myself. And back then, when I first started in New York, I was completely sheltered. I was very introverted. I had a lot of fear within me, and I never lived abroad. But I went there, and I decided to do it on a whim. And I went after my dad's saying, "قطي نفسك," and I did it. And I did go through a lot of tough times, specifically as a متحجبة as well. And it's something that I don't like to focus on, but it's a reality that, people must speak about and must know about. And with all of that being said, I'm super grateful for all the tough times that I've been through. So I did intern in galleries, I interned in a museum as well. But during that time, I wanted to prove something to myself. I just got out of my bachelor's degree. I graduated with a BFA in fine arts. And I had a mid-career, not even a mid-career, I was a kid, had a crisis. And I was thinking whether I wanted to be a curator, a gallerist, or an artist. So after going through that year and being in every single part of the gallery, the museum, from research to packing artworks up for a show to even cleaning my boss's apartment, I did so many things that maybe I wouldn't do today, or I wouldn't do for sure today. But I had to go through it because I was determined to find my answer. And I knew then that I wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to continue painting specifically. So with creating my work, it comes down to 2 points for me. One is I always want to give back. I've always had this empathetic approach to life and to people, to experiences, sensations. So how can I give back as I'm giving myself while I paint? While I paint, I surrender. I gift myself freedom. I fluctuate, I elongate myself. I think about my body, I think about my spirit, and how do I align with that? So I want to give that sense of movement to people when they approach my work. So that's why I create. So with coming back to Kuwait, I'm very grateful, first of all, for that. And it's maybe rare to say. I was in New York for 7 years, and I was going to continue my path there. I was at some point going to move to Qatar. But I had an urgency where I had to cancel these plans, and I wanted to come back to my country. And I felt that there was something for me that must be challenged. We think that we know something so well when we grew up in it, but we can take it for granted. And I didn't like that feeling within myself. So I wanted to come back, and I wanted to build that system for myself. I haven't exhibited in Kuwait, a full solo exhibition. I'm working with 2 galleries abroad, Tabari Art Space in Dubai and Hunna Art, who is also based in the UAE and worldwide. And I'm interested in exploring my work abroad currently, but I need to make my work in Kuwait because my work is about my country. And at some point I do want to show in Kuwait, but it has to be a very specific image that I have in mind. I want it to be site specific. I want to build a structure. It's almost installation based and all. But I believe everything comes in due time, and nothing, happens overnight. It's constant work, and you just have to show up, even when you don't feel like showing up. It's so easy to feel discouraged. It's so easy to be maybe put down by others, but if anything, and I'm very grateful for that, I'm very happy that I have such a supportive system. I would like to have a bigger sense of community where critique is receptive for creatives. I think we're still fearful of critique as a society, and not just within the arts. And it would be great to have circles of community where artists can come in, they can show their works, or they can show an idea, speak freely about it, and have this dialogue. When people think of critique, they think of criticism. But in fact, it's just a dialogue between me and you talking about the work. It's not a competition. We're all in different paths. We're all moving in a specific direction. I lift you and you lift me. That has always been my attitude and kind of my sense of being. I give and you give back. And that's what I would like to see more of in general. That true and genuine support system that is eternal and that can lift you really when you need it, and maybe when you don't think you need it. Philip Guston's a contemporary New York painter, and I'm reading his book right now. It's called I Paint What I Want to See. It's excerpts of his lectures and his talks. So he said something that affirmed so much within me, and it's a need that I have. He said that you need at least one or two people that get onto your stage, that support your stage. They're not necessarily artists, they're not necessarily creatives, and I realize that I need that. I have that with my mom. She sees things that I can't see. So sometimes while I paint, I'm like, Mama, please come, can you see this? She's like, this color is off. And we have a conversation, and I leave it at that. There's this immediate trust when it comes to it. It's not even with your daily life, but even when it comes to creating the work. Sometimes you're painting something, there's a beautiful mark or a gesture that you made, but it doesn't sit right, you have to let go. So it's constantly being able to let go and to birth and to trust that process, and taking that and applying it to your daily life and to how you approach people, how you approach experiences, even your sensation. It's this act of subtraction rather than addition to me. And with that as well, do not be afraid to seek for help when it comes to the community. Reaching out to different artists, academics, and other creatives. Ask your questions. I think a lot of people have a fear towards the future, but I never felt that way because I enjoy the unplanned aspect of it. And that does not mean that I'm not disciplined or I'm not structured. I am, but when it comes to the outcome, it's the last thing that I want to think of. When it comes to professional development or professional practice, the three skills that I feel like are very important and essential to me is being able to write about your work and to speak about your work is very important, if not as important as creating the work. Writing should be a practice that is accompanied with the work. I personally have a habit of keeping a notebook in my studio. So while I'm painting, I would write in the notebook. Sometimes I'd write on the wall as well. And then the second thing that I learned is you have to be able to do multiple things at the same time. You might be an art handler one day. You might be a website developer. You might be a painter, or you might be a critic even one day. But you have to wear different hats, and you have to be flexible with that, and you have to accept that as well. And I think specifically in Kuwait as well, since there isn't really a built industry yet. And it's important as much as you can to be self-sufficient and to seek for that, and you're going to attract the right people in your life when it comes to funding, community, and friends, and so on. And the third and final thing I would say is simply being, I feel like, in touch with people that inspire you, people who are higher up than you. It's important to have that inspiration source for yourself. And I think people can get too wrapped up in their own stage sometimes. And it can be egotistical as well. So you have to rid yourself of that and humble yourself down and look up as well to other people.